Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lunch Hour Lessons with Allison. I'm Allison Mädl, and today is September 18th, 2019. Each week on Wednesdays at 12:30, I come to you live to introduce a topic related to nutrition and health that I think is interesting and give you a topic to take with you into your daily life. If you like what you hear, feel free to comment or like this message. And as always, I post a transcript of each lesson on my blog at AllisonMädl.com. This week's topic is French kids eat everything. About 10 years ago, I read a book whose author's story really struck with me and changed how I thought about children's eating habits. The book was called French Kids Eat Everything. I read it again a few years later, and it was still a really fun and enjoyable read. So today I want to introduce this book to you and share a few things that I remember the most. The long title of the book is French Kids Eat Everything: How Our Family Moved to France, Cured Picky Eating, Banned Snacking, and discovered 10 simple rules for raising happy, healthy eaters. That's a long title, but it really does do just that. Karen Le Billon is a Canadian woman who married a French man, and their two daughters were, when the two daughters were young, they moved to France to stay in his hometown village in the north of France. And they stayed there for a little over a year. The oldest daughter enrolled in public school there and quickly found out that the concept of food specifically was handled very differently there. Lunches were all sit-down affairs, and they actually had tablecloths and silverware. Snacking was expressly frowned upon, so no food between meals generally, and so was eating anywhere else other than at a table. Karen, the author, figured out this in two ways that I can recall. One was that she couldn't figure out why everyone's car was so clean until she realized that nobody was ever snacking in there. And the other one was that when she was trying to get to know the other moms at her daughter's school, she set up a table outside the classroom one day and had prepared a variety of healthy snacks, just kind of to introduce herself and say hi. But no one, as they came by, was interested in the snacks. In fact, the parents were kind of shepherding their children away with sort of this attitude that she was being very unhelpful and like tempting the children to eat these outside the appropriate food times snacks. And so eventually Karen started to understand more about living and eating in that culture, and her daughters, who had been notoriously picky eaters, they eventually started to learn to enjoy a wider variety of foods. So she actually ended up enjoying some of the lessons that she'd learned there. To make an understatement, the French people care a lot about how and why and what food is prepared and eaten. And there's a lot of ingrained routines in their culture. It's not a casual subject, food, and they take it very seriously, so much so that UNESCO has declared French cuisine to be the world intangible heritage, which basically world intangible heritage are anything that they designate as like cultural practices that are worth being preserved in an official way. So because of this, the French public school system teaches children how to eat food as part of their overall educational experience. So the sit-down lunches at school are when the children are introduced to new flavors, textures, and ways of preparing simple ingredients. They actually have professional chefs who work at the public schools and who cook for the children. And these children are served the food like at a nice restaurant when they sit down. And so the practice isn't about teaching the children to cook the food. It's actually educating their palates so they can learn how to appreciate a wider variety of food. Not all the children like each meal that's presented, obviously, but the idea is that with repeated exposure and various preparation methods, even foods like beets and leeks can be desired by young children. And so the author describes how one day the new food that the children would be learning, like beets, would be prepared in a soup. And then on a different day, they'd maybe have it prepared in a souffle or in a salad. And so the children would get used to the taste of the food over time as their palates adjusted and learn to appreciate the new flavors and textures. So it's kind of like, just like practicing math equations, the students were practicing eating. Research actually does back this up and shows that it will take kids up to about 12 times of tasting a new food before they consent to eat it regularly. And this is normal. Karen realized that she, as well as other parents, really shouldn't have rushed to make assumptions about her child's food preferences after just a few tries. And this is true for adults as well. I had a hard time learning to like sardines, for example, but I'd heard so much about how good they were for me and how nutritional they were and how I should include it in my daily diet. So I really made an effort to learn to like them. And I have to say, over time, I do like them. And it took a little while. Probably 12 tastes is about right. So Karen eventually distilled her cultural learnings about French food education into 10 simple habits and routines. And those are listed in the book. And they may be helpful for you if you wish your children would appreciate a greater variety of flavors and textures. I'm going to list them briefly here. She goes into a lot more detail, but basically we'll go with 1 through 10 real quick. So 1, parents, you are in charge of your children's food education. 2, avoid emotional eating. Food is not a pacifier, a distraction, a toy, a bribe, a reward, or a substitute for discipline. 3, parents schedule meals and menus. Kids eat what adults eat. No substitutes and no short order cooking. 4, food is social. Eat family meals together at the table with no distractions. 5, eat vegetables of all colors of the rainbow. Don't eat the same main dish more than once per week. 6, for picky eaters, you don't have to like it, but you do have to taste it. 7, limit snacks, ideally only 1 per day or 2 maximum, and not within 1 hour of meals. In between meals, it's okay to feel hungry, and at meals, eat until you're satisfied rather than full. 8, take your time for both cooking and eating. Slow food is happy food. 9, eat mostly real, homemade food and save treats for special occasions. Hint, anything processed is not real food. 10, eating is joyful, not stressful. Treat the food rules, these 1 through 10, as habits or routines rather than strict regulations. It's fine to relax them once in a while. So that's the 10. I really think you'd like this book, and she includes some simple recipes too at the end for introducing kids to new foods. And of course, they almost always include butter. So for that alone, I say, bless the French. That is all the time we have for today. Be sure to tell a friend this week's lunch hour lesson, which is liking a variety of food is not innate. It takes education and practice. Like my page to get the weekend tip that comes out on Saturday mornings, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.